I wasn't gonna do any taping today. See, I'm in a pretty cool place right now. You can see the city. Between that one tree and the old grain mill, that's downtown Buffalo. Guess this would be considered part of South Buffalo. All abandoned stuff. All these old grain mills are abandoned. When I was a kid, they were still going, but industry fell off. I think I'm going to just give you some of my history. I might have done it before, but I don't think so. I was born in '58. Lived in a pretty populated neighborhood in South Buffalo. A lot of kids, real lot of kids. Lower to lower middle class families, working families. I don't think I knew anybody's dad that didn't work. There was a lot of jobs back then too. Parents were kind of violent, I guess you'd say. It was accepted. There wasn't a lot of laws about child abuse then, or at least they weren't enforced. So there were some kids in the neighborhood came from severely violent homes, and they tended to be violent kids. I was in the middle, I guess you'd say. I never was a violent person. I never victimized anyone. And that's something I'm proud of. But I grew up in a time when drugs just started coming in to the abuse. I mean, in the 60s, 50s, it was usually into the lower class neighborhoods. People used drugs. But after, with the hippies and LSD and marijuana, a lot of other stuff, it was like the dam broke. Guys from Vietnam came back with a lot of them with drug habits, heroin, and needle habits. So the two combined. I always had a sense for adventure. And back then I was a follower. I started smoking cigarettes because all my friends were doing it when I was like 11 years old. Cigarettes weren't really looked at like they were a health hazard. I wouldn't say they were looked at as they were healthy, but I can't say I don't remember a lot of people dying from cancer back then. Everyone smoked. I better stay away from the tracks. Marijuana started to become apparent when we were about 8th grade, freshman year in high school. I remember the first time I smoked it, I really didn't want to. My friend kind of punked me into it, and I did it and nothing happened. I didn't get high. Second time I smoked it, I got high, and I really liked it. So that became kind of an addiction. I smoked. I love marijuana. Cigarettes and marijuana. I wasn't a big drunk. I mean, I had drunk alcohol. I got caught drinking the summer after we got out of 6th grade. But I really dumped it. I hated the taste of this shit that was malt liquor. They always bought it because it was supposed to be stronger, but it was horrible. Even as I got older and drank, I never would drink that shit. Alright, here's where I went down. Getting a little stormy out. It's about 8:30 in the morning. I dress pretty warm for this kind of travel. But marijuana and then LSD came after that. Because LSD was, you would almost say it was a similar drug to marijuana. I mean, with the laughing and I guess some minor hallucinations you get on marijuana, but the LSD in 1973 was very strong. And first time I did it, I remember, I I was probably 14 or 15, and I would look at my friends and think they really don't look any different. Their eyes are big and they're smiling and laughing. I did it at 11 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. Might have been earlier, because back then I went to church with my parents. So I did it before we went to church. And I guess you can say I wasn't thinking. Who thinks when you're that age? This is the Buffalo River. So I go to church, nothing happens. Come home, nothing happens. And what I had done is took a half a hit of this stuff called window pane. It's a little like chip, square chip that was taped to a piece of cardboard. And I just took a half of it. I cut it and took a half, and then I taped the piece back on. And that right there cost me 75 cents. I gotta watch where I'm walking, man. This is fucking ice. This is the way I came, so I'm walking on my old footprints. Look at that. Now, we hung around at this kid's house, Joe. His parents were kind of lenient. They weren't bad people. They just weren't really attentive. Guess they thought we were safer there than out on the street. Streets weren't really looked at as dangerous then. This violence was, if you got beat up, that was the violence, or maybe someone got stabbed once in a while. I get home from church, I get dressed, I go over to Joe's, and nothing's happening. So we're gonna go up to the corner to hang out on Salt Park. And the minute I stepped out of his house, I'm looking, and the driveway's got all this writing all over it, like bubble writing. How graffiti looks today. But I can't read any of it. And I'm going, what the fuck do you do to your driveway? He's like, what, are you crazy or something? I go, there's writing all over your driveway. And he's looking, you don't see it. So we make our way up to the corner, and by now I'm pretty high. I'm getting really high. The leaves are curling up in the trees, and it's pretty bright out. It was only about maybe 1 o'clock, 12:30, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It was summertime, early summer. And I remember the whole time I'm trying to read the writing on the sidewalks, walking up the street. I'm completely captivated by it. We get up to the bowling alley, and we're standing out in front smoking. I can't even talk. I can't even say a word. I'm just laughing, giggling, stupid. And a couple girls who knew come up, and someone told them I was tripping. But, no one made a big deal about it. We were very young, especially if you're doing such powerful drugs. And that wasn't really a big experience at that point. So then if we go back to Joe's, and I gotta say I don't recall most of it, but I remember when I decided I had to go home and eat dinner. And I was very high. Like physically I felt very high. But I really wasn't worried about going home, I guess. And I got to the corner of one of this side street, and one of the girls that had known that I was tripping comes walking towards me. And it's real quiet. She goes, "Are you?" And then she goes, "Hi, Tim." And I go, and her head came right off her shoulders and flew by me like telescopically or something. And then everything started going haywire and moving and making this music, like this electronic sounds. So I get in my house and I'm watching TV, and the drapes behind the TV are blowing like there's wind behind them. And I'm trying to go looking to see if the window's open, why the drapes are moving. My brothers, we're all young, I was the oldest, so they're all under 14, 15, or 13, 10, whatever. So they're not going to think anything. I think though, when you first do that stuff and your brain's not developed, you don't really get some intense hallucinations. Your imagination's not developed. I know they say like it's unrestrained when you're a young kid, but I didn't really have like the geometric symbols or anything. You gotta cross this fast. Fucking railroad cops are right over there, fuckers. They'll never catch me. I don't think they'll even bother. But no, when I'm sitting down to eat dinner with my parents, I'm just fucking laughing the whole time. And I guess as a kid they don't suspect he's just some dumb kid laughing. She had baked a chicken. She puts the chicken on a table, on a plate, and the legs of the chicken are kicking. It wasn't making noises or nothing, but it's like, I don't even know how I handled it. And then I just remember vaguely, like I'm trying to talk, and then I said, oh, my brother said something or he made a noise. I go, you remind me of that guy. And it's like, what guy? You know, that guy. Just, I guess could have been blown off as kid shit. And I had peas on my plate, and I'm trying to stab the peas. It was very hard to eat, very hard to swallow. But I'm trying to stab these peas, and they're moving all over my plate. I got through it, got through dinner, got out of the house, but that was my first LSD experience. I'd say it was probably the summer after freshman year, whatever age you are then, 15, 16. To me, it don't make no difference how young you are, because it unfolds into a lifetime of madness. But I didn't touch that stuff after that for a while. I went back to just smoking weed, and along came this stuff called Titch. Now, we're all weed smokers. We all liked it. It was Mexican weed. It was $5 a nickel, 20 bucks an ounce. It was not anywhere comparable to the stuff that they have today. I'm going to get off this road. This stuff came in little yellow capsules, Salmonex capsules. They emptied out the medication and put this stuff in. And they told us, my friend's older brother had been in the service, and he came back a pretty bad drug addict. And he was selling us drugs, so, I mean, he was probably 21 or 22. And he was kind of a remnant of a hippie, you know, long hair, they never had shoes on. I mean, went in his house, he had giant garbage bags filled with weed. And he's the one that came with the LSD. He got the window pane. And them guys are really into it. But he told us this stuff was synthetic marijuana. And I had come into $10 somehow, which wasn't easy then. $10 was kind of a lot of money. I stole 2 5s or something from my parents over time because they would notice it. That's one thing, I never really robbed my parents for anything. Maybe if you added it up, maybe $50 or $60 total. I bought, for $1.50, I bought, 5 or something, 4 of them. And I think it was actually 6 of them. So we go to a party, and we open up the capsules and snort a half of it. I was so fucked up I couldn't even move. All I could see was the ends of my feet, and they were like 10 feet away from me. It was not a good experience. I didn't like it. I could hardly walk. My friends walked me home and just left me at the house. I don't know if anybody got as wasted as me. I don't even remember. But I got away with it. I went in the house and just sat and watched TV and just slid up to bed, and no one said anything to me. I went from there, I gave that shit up, but I wanted to get high. I didn't want this weed no more. It was too boring. everybody was doing more and more drugs. There was more drugs pouring in. They started robbing drugstores. Their streets are filled with amphetamines and barbiturates, opiates. I didn't even want to mess with it. I didn't like the feeling, like it crawling in your skin and shit. But codeines were like a big thing then, and today they're not. And I think that's the cause of this insanity is Lortabs. Lortabs lit the fuse on the bomb. This is nice and peaceful. So I started doing more LSD. I started to become known for being an LSD person. I could handle it, you know. I guess maybe because of my first experience, I learned pretty much that no one could tell. My eyes are really dark brown, so you can't see my pupils anyhow. And I learned, well, not right away, but I learned to stop that idiotic smiling and laughing all the time. I learned to be almost normal on it. By the time I was at the end of my junior year, I probably had 100 trips going. I took it a lot. Let's push that maybe to senior year, but I took it a lot. Microdots, these little tiny pills, they're good. I mean, I had some heavy experiences with it, but I'd say in my lifetime I've taken LSD 300 trips, maybe 1,000 doses altogether, and I've only had maybe five really heavy, significant trips. Them guys, my friends started shooting up, like the older group of guys. They're shooting the titch. It was actually PCP. Very, very strong. Stronger than anything I ever did to this day. And I gotta admit, emotionally I was damaged. I had suffered a lot of abuse. Now look at these tracks, man. There's my foot. That's like a dog track. I don't know what these are, but he just came through because it just started snowing. Two of them. There's two of them. Bigger than coyotes, man. Looks like they're going the other way, though. I'm gonna follow them. The older guys were very welcoming. They were coming down to my friend's house and getting off. And it was like a cool experience. It was thrilling for me. Where are these guys going? But for about a year I watched them and I was snorting it. Now the capsules started coming in like these bigger bags or dimes, but they were an enormous amount of powder for a $10 bag. It was like a gram of powder. So I worked my way up and eventually I decided I was going to shoot up. I was 17. This I remember. I was in senior year, 1976 in February. But I was so used to LSD by that time, I didn't want to shoot the PCP. I wanted to shoot LSD. And I remember I had that needle mark on my arm. It didn't do anything special. You got off a little faster, but you didn't peak out immediately. It was just a quicker way of ingesting it. But the door was open then. I had crossed a line. I remember being so guilty feeling the next day. I can't tell these tracks. The point's going this way. Shit. Walking around in circles. I come in here because I'm trying to track these animals, see what the hell they are. It fulfills a little bit of my need for over-the-top excitement, interest. Connection to nature is really good. I eventually worked my way up to the PCP, and now they're calling it T. And the big shot, kingpin of the older guy's gang. He wanted me in on that for some reason. You know, he really did a lot of tempting.